Okay, so we've started to template this out and to sort of swap common things amongst pages of our site. In this video, I want to talk a little bit more about this. So take a look at this. We're on our home page. Look up here in the browser tab. It says Hello World. That's the title of this page. Now, if we go to About, it says Hello World up there. So that's not really that cool, right? Because each page is going to have its own title. It's going to have its own meta tags and things like that for search engines. They're going to have their own social media links and things like that. So how do we add these things to this base.html file in a way that allows us to keep everything separate? So that's what we're going to talk about in this video. So anytime we want to add something specific to our base.html file for each page, we can do that by adding more blocks. So let's say we want to change this title from Hello World to something specific for each page. So head over to our about.html file and let's create some curly brackets, and we just create a new block, and let's call this title. And now these names are completely arbitrary. Anything you want to call it will work, but we're going to put this as a title, so we might as well call it title. And let's say about John Elder. Now we need to close our block. So end block. Okay, so if we save this, now we head over to the base.html file, and inside of here, we need to do the same thing, put our curly brackets, and then call block title, and then close them, end block. Okay, now you notice I left this in here. Now if we save this, and the reason why is what happens here is base.html file gets called, and if the other page has a block title, it'll put it right here. If it doesn't, it'll put this hello world to the screen. So for instance, our home page, we don't have that extra block title thing, right? So in that case, it'll just print out hello world. So let's save all these and see if that's the case. So come to our home page, hit reload. It says hello world. That's what we would expect. If we go to about, it says about John Elder. Very, very cool. So we can then also change the home page. So if we want to add this to the home page, we could go block title. Welcome to johnelder.org. I don't know. And then close end our block. Now if we save this, come back to our home page and hit reload, boom, now it says welcome to johnelder.org. On our about page, it says about John Elder. If we look at our source, we can see that, in fact, yes, the title says welcome to johnelder.org. Very cool. So you can do this as much as you want in as many ways as you want. Anytime you've got specific content that is specific to a specific HTML page, right? Anytime you just create a block, name it something, and then reference that block somewhere on your base.html page. So very, very simple, very, very cool. In the next video, we're going to look at building out an actual nav bar so that we can see how to, like right now we have all these links on each of our pages, and that's obviously no good. So we will take those off of those and put those into base. On our home page and our about page, we have these links, this little makeshift nav bar. And I'm gonna go ahead and delete those, and we're gonna create a proper nav bar. So head back over to Get Bootstrap, and here on the left-hand side, we can just scroll down to Components. And if we scroll down to Navbar and then kind of scroll down a bit, this is the basic navbar we're going to use. So I'm going to copy this, and let's head back over to our base.html file. Let's see, right below the body, I'm just going to paste in all of that code. So I'm going to save it, come back to our page, and hit reload. We see we have this nav bar just like that. So I'm not real thrilled with this color, so I'm going to change it. There's a bunch of different options you can read through here if you're interested, but this is not a course in Bootstrap or CSS, so I'm just going to run up here very, very quickly to the top class of this nav bar. I'm going to change it from nav bar light to nav bar dark. Save this, come back here and hit reload. Okay, much, much better. So now this stuff is scrunched right up here in the corner, and I don't really like that. So let's change that. Let's scroll down here to our block content, and I'm gonna wrap this in a div with a class of container. And this is just a Bootstrap thing. We don't really care. Like I said, we're not gonna learn Bootstrap in great detail in this course. Okay, so if we save this, now hit reload, boom, that bops it over. Still not thrilled with that. Let's put a line break. Okay, much better. So now let's go through here and fix this nav bar to where it actually has our links and stuff. Now we don't need this search, we don't need this drop down thing, we don't need these extra links. So first thing I'm gonna do is sort of clean this up a little bit. So head over to our code here, and here is the form. And you can see if I click on it, the closing form tag gets highlighted, so I know what to delete. So if I just delete that, save it, come back here and hit reload, boom, that disappears. So now I want to get rid of these two things. So the drop down, and I'm just sort of eyeballing this. I can see here it says drop down LI. I can delete that, and this disabled link, I can delete that, and this home link, I can delete that. So let's save this and make sure we didn't mess anything up too badly. Okay, so we've got this link. So let's go in here and fix this link. So let's call this home. And inside of here, we can just do our same link thing that we did earlier. So URL home. I'm just going to copy this whole thing and paste it in and do about and about. Okay, so if we save this, head back here and hit reload, boom, home and about. If we click about, okay. Now let's see this nav bar. Let's change that around a little bit. So let's scroll up and look for nav bar. Okay, so I'm going to call this John Elder. And I'm going to copy this home URL thingy. Okay, so let's save this and take a look. So we can go about, we can click John Elder. Very cool. All right, not bad. So that's nav bar. We can do the same thing down here at the bottom of the page above this jQuery stuff or this JavaScript stuff. Let's go center, small, copyright, and this copy, which is the little copyright symbol. Nah, we don't need a date. Let's go johnelder.org. All rights reserved. Very official, right? Small, center, and let's put a couple of line breaks here. Okay, so now if we save that, we get this little copyright thing. It appears on every page. So now we have a nav bar at the top. We have a footer at the bottom. It's not much of a footer, but it's a footer. And all right, we're starting to look good. So just that easy to create a nav bar on every page of your website. And we just use the Bootstrap. Obviously, you can use any sort of CSS you want, any sort of framework you want, any sort of template that you might have. Or if you have a design employee that does your CSS and HTML design work, you can use that. Just paste it into our base.html file like that, and you're good to go. So I want to talk a little bit about passing Python things into our page and using Python in general on a page. So there's several ways to do this, and let's head over to our About page. And we've seen these sort of scripting tags with these percentage signs, and we can do actual sort of Python-y things with those as well. So let's say we want to do an if statement. So if 2 is greater than 1, hello, let's say else goodbye. I don't know. And then like all of these, we have to end if, right? So if we save this, if 2 is greater than 1, it's going to print out this. Otherwise, it's going to print out this. Now, 2 is obviously greater than 1. This is not a great if statement, but for purposes of just explaining this, we could see, boom, it says hello. If we change this around, if 0 is greater than 1, print hello. That's obviously false, so we should get this else goodbye. If we save this, goodbye. So that's how you do Python-y things using these scripts. And, you know, this is sort of Python. It looks like Python, kind of. The end is different than Python, but it's close enough to Python that it's familiar, right? So that's one way to sort of use Python itself on the page. And you can do if statements, you can do loops, for loops, and things like that, and all kinds of stuff like that. So another way, and actually the kind of more important way that I want to talk about, is if we head over to our views.py and let's go to our about view, we can do Python-y stuff in this function and then pass it using these context dictionary brackets right there. And if you're not familiar with the dictionary, Python dictionary, they're just like, oh, they're like hashes in Ruby, or I think objects in JavaScript. You know, they're lists of things, right? So let's create a variable and let's call it my name and set it equal to hello. My name is John Elder. So we've created a variable. Now let's say we want to reference that variable on our page, right? Well, we do that by passing it into this dictionary. So dictionaries are key value pairs. You have a key and then that value. So let's create a key. We can call it anything we want. I'm just going to call it my name to keep things simple. And then the value of my name is this variable, my underscore name, which is this thing right here. So now we can reference this key on our page. So if we save this and head over to about, and let's add a line break here. To reference this, instead of using these curly brackets with percentage signs, when we're dealing with variables and things like that, we just do double curly brackets, open and close. And inside of here, we just type in the key variable name, which is my name. So if we save this and hit reload, boom, hello, my name is John Elder, which is this stuff right here. We can call this key anything. We could call it Bob, right? So if we save this and head back over here, now we would just change this to Bob, right? Hit reload, boom, hello, my name is John Elder, nothing has changed. So that's how you pass things in Python-wise from our view. Now we can also reference external Python programs. So if you write a Python program and you want to use it on your web page, you can do that similarly through this. And I'll show you how to do that using an external Python file in your pages of your website. So I'm gonna go ahead and delete all this stuff we did in the last video. Okay, so first things first, let's create a little Python file. So let's head over to our pages and click new file, and then let's save this as, what do we want to call this? Namer.py. It's a weird name, but okay. So inside of here, let's just create a little function, define, and let's call it namer. And let's just have it return, my name is still John Elder. Okay, so this is a very ridiculous program, very simple, but you can imagine any kind of program that you want to run or you want to write, you can write it in this namer.py file, and then I'm going to show you how to use it on your page. So head over to, let's say we want to use this on our about page. So if we save this, I'm going to head back here and hit reload. So it just says about page again, nothing else. So we need to import this as if it was a module. So we go from, and then we call pages dot namer, right? So we're in the pages directory, so that's where this comes from. Dot namer is the name of this file, and then we want to import what did we call this function? We called it namer, right? So we import namer. If we called this Bob, we save that, come back here, we would import Bob, right? So now we can run that function inside of here the same way we did in the last video. So we create a key and a value. The key can be anything. Let's call it my stuff, whatever. And the value is that Bob function. Now you can put the function here, the little brackets, parentheses, but you don't have to. So I'll just take that off. So now we need to reference my stuff. Let's copy that on our about page, and we can do that the same way we did in the last video by calling it like this. So now if we save this, come back here, boom, my name is still John Elder, right? So what's happened here is we imported this function from this file, and then here we ran it, and when we ran it, the program returns this string. And so this string gets put out onto the screen. So whatever you want this function to do, we could say return 2 plus 3. And if we save this, come back here and hit reload, it's just going to print out 5 because that's what our program returns, right? So whatever the program returns, it's going to print it out into this dictionary, into this value area right here, and then we reference it by calling my stuff wherever we want to do that. So that's a real quick and easy way to use external Python files. And like I said, this is a ridiculous program. It doesn't do much anything, but you can see how it all fits together. And whatever program you want to write and run, this is how you would do it. So there's probably other ways to do it. That's just the way I've always done because it's super, super easy. But once you play around with this stuff, maybe you find a better way or whatever. We want to add some images. And an image is something Django calls a static file. And there's lots of different types of static files. So if we head over to our base.html, you see right here at the top, we added all this Bootstrap CSS stuff, right? This is all hosted on a third-party website. That's why we were able to just copy and paste it in. Same thing with the JavaScript down here. But if you're building a real website, there's a good chance you're going to want to add your own CSS and you're going to want to host it on your website, right? So CSS files, JavaScript files, image files, those are all what Django calls static files. So we need to be able to use static files on our site. So let's head over to home.html. Now, normally when you add an image to a website, use an image tag. It's just img src equals, and then us.png, whatever the actual image is, right? Well, we're going to do the same thing, but we need to figure out how to add the actual images. So that's what we're going to talk about in this video. And the same thing applies for CSS and JavaScript files or any kind of static files, but we're just going to do image because that's a very, very common sort of thing. So first things first, let's close out our pages and close out our My Site. So now head up to this very top level, this Django project folder, and click New Folder. And we're going to call this static because it's a static. These are static files, right? So now we have our My Site folder, our Pages app, and this static folder all on the top level here. So now inside of this static folder, I'm going to create another folder, and I'm just going to call it images. So if we were going to put JavaScript, I'd create a folder called JavaScript. If we were going to create CSS files, I'd create a folder called CSS. We're just going to do images, so I'm just doing this one. So now we need to navigate to our My Site folder and hit up our settings file. And this is another thing we need to do in settings. Down here at the very bottom, you see this static URL is this /static. This is the static thing we just created. This was already here, but that's what it's referencing. So we need to add a couple of things here. We need to type all capitals static files _ dirs. It stands for directories. And we create a Python list. And inside of here, we need to type os.path.join and then capital base _ dir and then a comma and then static, and then should probably put a comma. So if we save this, so basically this os.path.join, this is a way for Django to create a path to a directory, but it's sort of system agnostic. So if you're on a Windows machine or a Mac or a Linux, it doesn't really matter. This thing will allow Django internally to create the path correctly. And this base directory is, I think up here at the top, it's defined somewhere. Yeah, right here. So this is the base directory. And again, it's just a way for Django to create a path to your files and stuff system agnostically. So whether you're on Windows, Mac, Linux, or whatever. So that's pretty much all we have to do there. So if we save this file, now I'm gonna open up just a Windows program manager here, and we can navigate to our C code Django project static images. And I've got an image I'm just gonna drag and drop into this folder. This us.png, and we can go ahead and close that. And now if we navigate back to our project static images, there it shows up, and it even shows up in our Sublime. So that's cool. So in order to now use this on our web page, we need to do a couple of things. So let's head over to our home page, and at the top of this, right underneath the extends, I think the extends has to go first. I can never quite remember. It's either the loads or the extends, but we're going to load our static files. So what this does is it just pulls in everything in this static directory, right? So save this. Now, in order to actually use that image, so let's go here to home page and put a line break. We create the same image tag as before, img src equals boom boom. And inside for the actual source, we use a static tag. It's just like a link. Remember when we did links and it was just URL and then the name? Well, now it's static and the name. And our name is images us.png, because remember we put it in this images folder. So if we save this, come back here and click reload, boom, we get our image. Now if we right click this and open image in new tab, you can see here's the path, static images us, and it does it all automatically for us. Django does. So very, very cool. And in fact, if we head over to Bootstrap, and I'm just gonna click on this cards thing, and I'm gonna copy that and head back over here, and I'm just gonna paste this card in, and let's get rid of this homepage thing. It's kind of stupid. And what I'm gonna do is copy this image, and I'm just gonna scroll down here and find the src in this card and replace that. So I can get rid of that. So cool, save that, come back here and hit reload, boom, now we get this cool little card. Let's change this link too. So let's take this and boom, boom. I'm just playing now because this is fun. We want URL, let's send this to about, right? And then let's change the text to about me. Come back here and hit reload, boom, about me, boom, goes to the about page. Very cool. Let's see, I don't like that button color. Well, I guess it's okay, it kind of matches the blue. If we want to change the buttons, you can come over here and click on buttons. And here's a list of all the different buttons you can choose from. There's secondary, dark. Let's try dark, sort of sticking with our theme. So change primary to dark. Again, this is not a course in Bootstrap, so I'll stop. I'll stop messing around, but it's just that easy to use this Bootstrap thing if you're curious. But very cool. So now this is how you add images to your website, but likewise, you can do the same thing with JavaScript files. You can do the same thing with CSS files, any kind of file like that you would want to add. You put it in a static file like that, and you call it just by calling this static tag and then put in the name. So very, very cool. Play around with this a little bit more and add some static stuff to our about page just to sort of reinforce it in our own minds. So I'm going to head over to my computer again and click on the code, Django project, static images, and I'm going to paste in a few more images that I have. C1, C2, and C3. Name them anything you want, doesn't really matter. And let's head back to Bootstrap and let's just kind of look through here and see some of the stuff that we can play with. Let's look at this carousel, see what that is. So, you know, websites always have these carousel things. So let's make one of these real quick. So copy this, head over to our about.html page. And let's get rid of this about page thing, and let's just paste in that stuff. So we want to use those images that I just pasted in also. So up here, we need to load static, and you need to do that on every page that you're going to use static files. So it's sort of a common thing, you just always add it. And inside of here, let's grab, we can just do static c1.png. And I'm just going to copy this and c2.png, c3.png. All right, so if we save this, head back over to our about page, hit reload. Oh no, something has horribly gone wrong. Oh, you know what I did? This needs to be images/c1. Boom, boom. And save and reload. Boom. Oh, that is huge. But now we have this cool carousel. Boom, boom. Images are a little out of aspect ratio, but you get the idea. Just that easy to add stuff like this to our site. So really the main thing we just have to remember when we add stuff is to first load static and then use the static tag whenever we want to add an image or anything else. And likewise, if we wanted to do like JavaScript or whatever, we would come to our base tag, we would do the same, load static, and then down here we would change this to static. It would probably be CSS, whatever.css, right? And so then that would put out the static thing. So I'll change that back. All right. So pretty cool, pretty simple. And I think, I mean, this is a pretty lame looking website. We don't have a whole lot going on, but I think we're pretty much done. I mean, you can modify this visually to add any kind of, you know, data or images or content that you like, just in the normal way you add images and content to any website. The Django part is, we pretty much talked about all the things I think we need to talk about. Now, sure, this is a very lame website. There's not a whole lot going on here, but we could fiddle with this for hours and hours to add different visual things. The main thing is that you understand how to use Django to do the basic things you need to do in order to create web pages and send them out there onto the web server. So just a real quick recap, you know, we create our views for each page and then a URL pattern for each page. And that's pretty much it. We create a template file. You serve static images through your static directory. And yeah, that's about it. So it's not that complicated, really. I think you'll probably agree, having gone through this, it's pretty straightforward, really. It's just that first initial learning curve that, you know, you throw all this stuff at you right away, it becomes overwhelming. You break it into these little parts and it's not too bad. And thanks for watching.